Welcome to the amazing world of creeks. I'm glad you are here. I have a lot of stuff to show you. Be prepared though, in exploring we sometimes get a little wet. Did you know there are over 3.5 million miles of rivers and streams in the United States? 3.5 million miles is the same distance as over 7 round-trip flights to the moon. That is a lot of water. Since we have so much water, we must be careful. Fish can breathe water, but we can't. It is important to go creek exploring with an adult, at least at the start. Once the adult knows what you are getting into, and they think it is safe enough, then it will be up to them how much exploring you can do alone. Don't worry though, there's a ton of cool stuff to see, even if you have to go with an adult. The creek itself is cool to see. Some rush fast as they drop in elevation. While others meander slowly on nearly flat ground. Some creeks are gorgeous and peaceful, while others look more plain as they flow by soil and rocks. Some have lots of water and are wide, while others shrink down and have a wide shore. Creeks are great, giving us excitement and peace, as well as an awesome place to explore. I can hardly wait to jump in and start looking. Here is a nice shallow one. Let's see what we can find. Told you we might get wet while exploring a creek, but it is fun and adventures are like that. But we must be careful and pick a creek that is not running too fast and certainly not too deep. Creeks can have a lot of push and knock you off your feet, and then you really will get wet or worse. Here is a nice quiet creek, so let's go explore and see what might be living under that rock there. I will reach down and slowly turn over the rock and look underneath. What can we find? What is that white dot? I bet it's an egg of some kind. Anything else we can find? It appears something laid an egg or two on this rock. You know, I think it might be a salamander egg. Salamander eggs have a jelly-like toxic shell for protection. Depending on water temperature and species, eggs take a few days to several weeks to hatch. When we're done looking, it is important to put the rock back in the water where we found it. The eggs need the water to survive. There are a variety of creatures in a creek. Many we can see if we go exploring. Under some rocks in the creek, we can find a crayfish, or as I called them as a kid, a crawdad. You must be very careful not to get pinched, though, because the big ones can really hurt. If you grab them on the body behind the pinchers, you should be okay. Crayfish feed mostly on snails, insect larvae, worms, and tadpoles, but sometimes plants, too. Frogs also live in and around a creek. They start out as tiny tadpoles, but can grow to a pretty big size. It is funny to listen to them croak, and sometimes even more fun to catch. Frogs are usually carnivorous, which means they eat other animals. To protect against being eaten themselves, their skin is distasteful and even toxic at times to many other animals. Now, not all animals in a creek are wise to catch. These large northern water snakes deserve our respect and some distance. They are not poisonous, so don't be afraid. In fact, they are more afraid of you than you are of them. But still, they are a creek animal probably best not to mess with. Besides, when you try to get close, they slither away in the water. Lest we think all creek animals are only wet ones, we should meet one of the many insects associated with a creek. This is a damselfly, and it, along with the dragonfly and many others, can often be found buzzing around a creek. Very colorful insects to see, especially if in the sunlight. Often we find a footprint or two of a land animal near a creek. Meet the evidence of a visit by a raccoon. They love to fish for food near a creek, as in crayfish and frogs, for instance, and they love to wash everything off before they eat. Ohio has about 170 species and subspecies of fish, and some of these live in a creek. Water temperature affects what species of fish live in any one creek. Creeks can be grouped by their typical water temperature, as in cold, cool, and warm. What in the world is this? Dancing dog paws? I don't see anything, just round gray dots dancing around. Is this an animal or what? I wonder what it is. Wow, did you just see that insect scoop by on top of the water? What if the dancing dog paws and that bug are connected in some way? I wonder. Yes, they are connected. Meet the insect we call the water strider. Notice how the water strider sits on top of the water and pushes it down just a little. He doesn't get wet at all because his special legs have tiny hairs that repel water and capture air. That, along with the water molecules sticking together, make it so the water strider can move and dance around, creating doggy paws as the sunlight shines down on him. Let's watch the water strider do his stuff for a minute. Wow, look at him go. Easy, isn't it? For him, anyhow. Sure looks like fun. You know, I thought for sure this was pollution when I first saw it. Who wouldn't? But I soon learned that nature by itself can also cause this foam. In fact, it is even more common. Decaying plants can produce a soapy oil that causes the creek water to foam up as it stirs around. This natural foam can be white, tan, or somewhat brown. The brown comes from tannins, a protective molecule often found in plants. Nature-produced foam is most often seen in the morning during spring or fall, and is common after a wind or rainstorm when more plant material is washed into the creek and the water is running faster. Speaking of fast-running water, the grand finale for a creek is a waterfall. Sometimes it spills over the rock at almost a wall of water, and other times it cuts right through the rock in a narrow channel. Either way, you are sure to get wet if you get too close. Creeks are just downright fun and very amazing.